What's up, Reef Builders? Welcome back to another episode of Reef Recap. I'm your host, Salem Clemens, and here is to another week. This week we had a lot of new content, so quite a few new articles up, as well as that we had a really great YouTube video. So Chris Capp came to the studio, showed kind of what it looks like to frag in a tank. So looking at a display tank saying, how can we cut back these corals? How can we organize things for future growth so we can take advantage of all the space available? Really interesting video. If you've got a very large and luscious display tank, it's something to look at for sure, because Chris is a wealth of knowledge. Aquatic Art is one of the nicest stores I've been to in the country. I've been to all the big ones, and it's in the top 3 for sure in terms of presentation. I had a really interesting interview this week with Mr. John Sorkness. He's a great guy. He lives down in Austin, and he is working on propagating gig anemones. So he cuts them right now, like carpet anemones. And then he's also working on trying to breed them as well. So very, very interesting. So this evening, I'm going to be talking about the whole new coral probiotic thing that you might have seen going around this week on Facebook. It was from Critical Reef Theory. So Alan Vo, I believe is the name. And I'll be talking about my take on that. I also have a tier list we're going to be doing of all LPS corals. So people like the tier list from last week, so I figured we would continue that. I will also have time to answer user questions as well. What's up, S2 Minute? How you doing, TN? Hello, Reef Nerds. Yes, welcome to the party. So yeah, make sure to check out all the new content that came out this week. But without ado, I think I'm going to start talking about this probiotic thing. So if you would share my screen. Okay. So if you've not seen this yet, here is the idea behind what this is. So and I completely agree with the idea behind this. The principle makes sense. Coral eat bacteria as a primary food source. The idea is, why don't we grow that bacteria to then feed the coral? So the concoction, as they call it, is a mixture of powdered foods. They've got flatulence in there through calcium carbonate and things like that. They then add in several types of commercial bacterial products. They add a carbon source in, they add amino acids, they can add trace elements. So then they just, add air stone, let it sit, and it will begin to multiply, and you'll have a bacterial culture. Here's my problem with it. Here's why I think it's maybe not that good of an idea. And this is not trying to shit on them at all. I think that they're very intelligent, and the existing idea is very good. All of that is true. Coral eat bacteria. If we had a food source like this, if we had a bacterial culture, it makes sense. The whole trophic level argument also makes sense. You probably will see, advantages and benefits from doing this, but the execution of how they're advocating to do it is something that I do not agree with. So let's say that this guy right here is a bacterial cell. Bacterial cells will reproduce and split into 2 through mitosis. Obviously, over a course of time, this leads to an exponential increase in growth, which is very, very fast growth. Here's the thing. A single bacterial cell in a culture, if it has an excess food supply, will grow. So because there is no type of aseptic technique that's being utilized, this could very, very basically lead to contamination growing. You could have coral pathogens that grow. You could have human pathogens that grow. You could be growing the wrong microbes. And also, you don't know what microbes you're growing anyways, because none of these companies have revealed what's in their products. They're just like, here's our probiotic blend. And they're probably like Bacillus subtilis or E. coli strains and things like that that are just, or lactobacillus, things that are in the human health industry for probiotics that they have just gone and applied to the aquarium trade. So who knows that if we add a large quantity of these, if it could not shift the microbiome in a negative way by outcompeting some of those natural halophilic, saltwater-based bacteria. So I'm sure that people will see a feeding response and things, but I think that there needs to be a little bit more of a cleaner way to propagate these things. And I don't think that we need to just be throwing anything in there. And especially we should not be harvesting once a week just by pouring it in. This needs to be treated as what it is. And that is you're making a bacterial culture and you have an excess food supply there. And any bacteria in the environment, if you're not careful enough, can grow in that. So people might say I'm an alarmist, but I will give you an example right now of when this has happened. So many of you know Telegram. Telegram sent me this. He tested Dr. Tim's EcoBalance. This is an aquabiomics report. And this was a bottle of EcoBalance that he had opened, and it had been open for like 2 years, and he had used it on and off. So EcoBalance, it seems like, is probably just Bacillus subtilis and about 2 other guys. So there should only be 3 bacteria in there. Here is the result. This is the species level breakdown. So this is, you gotta ask aquabiomics for this. This is every single species that was detected in that sample. So if you have something that is, just a relatively, like EcoBalance is designed to keep the bacteria that are in it safe in the bottle. They can grow, they can continue to live for a very prolonged period of time, but it's by no means an excess of nutrients to promote growth. Given that, even some environmental contamination, they were able to utilize those excess nutrients, and they were able to contaminate this sample. And something that was very alarming is that he had a human pathogen in this sample. So he works, I believe, in a hospital or like around a lab or something like that, he told me. So he thinks he might have transferred it that way, but that doesn't mean that other people could not. So when you're growing bacteria, you have to be, aseptic technique is crucial. Typically, what happens in the lab is you sterilize all of the equipment using steam-based sterilization with an autoclave, and then you also use flame on top of that, and you also use things like ethanol. You wear gloves, you can even wear masks, you can put things in a flame, like a laminar hood, and then you have UV come down, and there is every step of the way, there's like 4 steps to sterilize everything. And that is because you can have a single cell from anywhere in the environment that can then go and take advantage of those resources. So while I agree with the idea of this entire probiotic concoction and feeding coral a bacterial food source, the execution, I think, is a very, very slippery slope and is not at all responsible. I think that this could very easily cause some human health concerns, and you could also potentially grow pathogenic bacteria or opportunistic bacteria as well. It's the same idea as don't dose what you don't test for. You don't know what you're adding to your tank doing this. You don't know what bacterial species. Nature is not sterile, no, but the thing is that you're trying to increase the concentration of a particular cell type in a home environment. Like this is like they had like a bottle of water and they just have an air stone in it and they throw a bunch of different products in there. They don't advocate wearing gloves or anything or being aseptic. Like that's very dangerous, I think. I think this is something that we should be a little bit better about. So look at how we grow phytoplankton, right? The only way to do it is to have pure cultures. You remain sterile. You sterilize everything. If people are going to be doing this approach, and I think it is a completely fine one to pursue, you need to remain sterile and you need to be diligent about the fact that terrestrial microbes can very easily get into this media source and can cause problems for you or, the tank. So I'm not doing it. I don't think that it's a very good idea as of now. I think that there's a better way to develop an approach like this. I would like to add, an actual Pelagibacter or something like that that's pretty common, that's not opportunistic, that doesn't cause problems in the environment, and you culture that through aseptic technique, and it's a monoculture. I think that would be the way to do it. The best thing to do is just get water from all the top coral growers and you're good. Yeah, I suppose so, huh? That would make it easier. But so I think, you need a closed environment. You need to be aseptic about it. And that is not what they're advocating. And I think that that's where things are going wrong. I think also that you don't have to necessarily have a bacterial food source. I think it could be good, but you could also achieve the same outcomes as they're seeing through carbon dosing and through adding live phytoplankton. Live phytoplankton, some of the species, smaller ones like Tetraselmis, things like that, or are a relatively small, Ananochloropsis, or a relatively small micron size, which could get you a similar feeding response. And there's so much peer-reviewed data out there that show that corals do indeed utilize phytoplankton. They eat it. They can take in the, any of the nutrients through osmosis as well. So adding live phyto, and then you could add things like hydrospace, like the ProBio, that are already on the market. It's going to be, I think, a much safer way to get the same outcome until someone can actually, I will probably write it up at this point because this seems dangerous to me and is really scary to me. So I will probably do like a video of how to do this aseptically. And I think I'll probably do it with a different product. The thing is like, yeah, so it's difficult to prevent contamination with phytoplankton, but they're not even attempting to prevent contamination or even talking about this. And I think this is something that should not be ignored. This is something that needs to be talked about. This is microbiology 101. If you are ever culturing bacteria, you want to know what you're growing, and you want to do that in a controlled way. You don't just inoculate any and everything in the environment into a rich media source and then pour it in your tank. Does not make sense to me. There was a very large disconnect between educating themselves behind the concept and deploying it. And I'm not trying to talk shit at all. Like I said, I think the concept makes sense, and I think that they have the right idea in mind, right? They're trying to push the envelope and trailblaze, but you got to be aware of the right way to do these things, because there certainly is, and there's certainly bad things that could happen if you don't. But yeah, I think that ProBio is good. So yeah, that's my take on this whole, consortium or concoction, the probiotic thing from critical reef theory. So if anyone has any questions about that, I would be glad to talk about a way you could potentially do this in a safer and more controlled way. How to do aseptic technique at home. These are things that can be done. I mean, I do them with phytoplankton, right? Like even the bacterial plankton, you can grow those at home. It's very possible to remain sterile at home, but don't just pour bacterial products and a carbon source and amino acids in a jug and then pour in your tank. I would not do that. I think that is a very slippery slope for sure. But yeah. The current trend of biodiversity for biodiversity's sake concerns me too. Yes, I completely agree. Like that's the thing is, A, you don't know what is in these bacterial products. B, let's culture them and throw them in the tank now. C, what's your baseline? D, why are you doing that? I completely agree. Yes, there needs to be, like aquabiomics is good. Get a baseline of your tank, determine different practical ways you could push the population one way or another, whether it's through carbon dosing, whether it's, God forbid, using a very, specific dose for a prolonged period of an antibiotic, whether it's through getting lucky with live rock. The better way is to buy something like, the sand from aquabiomics, which has been cleared from pathogens. I think carbon dosing is probably something that is a very practical solution, and you would see a lot of the same benefits. You're going to be increasing those populations in your tank already, which the coral can eat. You don't have to culture stuff external. You don't have to worry about contamination. If you got the nutrients, just carbon dose. Does the same thing. I've used amino acids, and I've noticed that I burned my green slimer. I stopped the aminos, no issues. Yeah, I do not advocate using amino acids, and I will go into that in the future. There is a lot of stuff that will probably make some people mad at me if I talk about it. Excuse me. But yeah, I don't use aminos at all anymore, and there is a lot of problems with them, I think, and using them in a tank. But I will not comment further on that, but I do not advocate using them. Phytoplankton, copepods, you get the amino acids in a more, like you have full proteins, full fatty acids that have already been constructed, gives you the same nutrition. There's not a reason to add purified aminos. Definitely dig the ProBio. Once you get past the stank, your corals will definitely thank you for using it. Super puffy LPS. Yeah. So I mean, ProBio, that's the entire idea behind this that product is you have something that can uptake nitrates, then the coral eat that. So it is both bioremediating the tank and cleaning the environment and giving the coral nutrition. It is a bacterial coral food. And that's what the entire CRT has been doing things. He did just come up with this out of his ass. Some things don't need to be fully understood. And that is where I completely disagree with you. Not the coming up with it out of his ass part. I don't think he did that at all. I think he did a lot of research, but I think that everything should be understood as much as we can. And I think that what they're advocating is very, very reckless. And I think that you just need to look into, like it is clear to me that they have either not done the research in terms of like basic practices and microbiology, or they didn't care to. And I think that that's pretty dangerous and pretty reckless. Like we should not be trying, like it's the same thing that happens with people that are like into mycology, right? It's like black mold is a really big problem. If you're not sterile with like any type of like your like nutrient block, right? Then you can get black mold growing if you're trying to grow like oyster mushrooms. That's a human health hazard. You could have any type of microbe take advantage of these nutrients. I mean, you're basically creating a culture in your house. And as I showed earlier, you might have missed it. Telegram has demonstrated that he had a bottle of EcoBalance that's set up for 2 years, and a human pathogen grew in it. Like, look at all of this contamination when it's only supposed to be 3 species. And that's just for ambient contamination, not even like really anything forceful, such as throwing 10 different products in a single bottle and then pouring it out 3 times a week and topping off the water. And you're not even using sterile water. So yeah, I disagree with you, man. I think that we should understand the things we're doing, and anecdotal results are not enough. It's so easy for bacteria to turn on their host too. Even safe bacteria may grow rogue and end up harming the coral itself. Yes. So if you have read my the pathobiome and dysbiosis article, this is kind of the primary pathway through how a lot of corals die from disease, right? Their symbionts will become opportunistic and turn on them. So there's no longer central regulation from species such as Rosiobacter, Endozoicomonas, and a lot of these really core symbionts. And because that regulatory function has gone through localized antibiotic production or whatever mechanism it is, we don't even know yet, a lot of these other guys can kind of go rampant and take over and just begin to eat the coral and utilize it as a food source instead of cooperating with it. So, yeah. I haven't seen the CRT, so I don't know what he's saying. I've been saying for ages all this bacterial biodiversity, no understanding, does not make sense to me. Yeah, I agree. Does not make sense to me either. Yes. And I feel I'm responsible for talking about this because right now everyone is raving about it. And we got to do better, people. We got to analyze things. Don't just take things, at face value of they're doing it. Their coral looks good. I should do it too. That is a very dangerous precedent to set. And that is how a lot of problems have happened. Antibiotics. We got antibiotic resistant. We're wiping out the good guys. And now we've got this, there needs to be education about microbiology. And obviously I'm not the world's smartest person when it comes to that, but I've taken microbiology and I can at least tell you that this is a bad idea from taking one class, So that's my take on that. And I've got no beef with them. I think what they're doing is great. I think they should just take a step back and analyze what they're doing and think about if they're promoting information online that this could actually affect people, what they're promoting, and they should maybe think about packaging that in a little bit different way. There are so many ingredients in the concoction, it would be impossible to identify what has actually helped. I agree with that as well. I mean, they're adding 10 different foods. You're like, sure. I think that bacteria is great for coral to add. You should just go and culture, any of the red stuff. Get some red stuff from Top Shelf Aquatic. It's bacterial plankton. And then carbon dose in your tank. You're going to have the same outcome, and you're not going to be risking any contamination that could harm you or your tank. People in the hobby will latch on to topics and talk until it's run on the ground, then then go to the next topic and rinse and repeat. Yeah. So this seems to be the zeitgeist right now. Like I said, I've been trying to push this a better understanding of the microbiome thing since September. And it seems a lot of people have came out of the woodworks and are talking about these new and improved bacterial approaches. And No, like we got to understand. We don't like even cutting edge science does not understand everything about this stuff. And we shouldn't just be going and trying to like just take tidbits of information that are on the precipice of what's emerging in literature right now and then going and throwing it in our tanks. I don't think that's the right way to do it. There's a lot of pseudoscience in this hobby to where people take a decent sounding, premise that is supported logically, and then they go and have action. And I think that, we got to be more diligent than that, people. So I'm going to switch over now. I think that was enough on that. Let's do the tier list. How do we feel about that? I was going to do an LPS tier list today. So, all right. I wasn't able to get the voting figured out. It's pretty complicated, and the website was not being useful. So last time we did zoanthids. This time we're going to do all LPS corals. Not like all of them, but there's quite a few on there. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with this, S tier is like, this is like the best thing ever. This is the absolute pinnacle, the holy grail, and then it just goes down from there. We're going to do an acro one, do not worry. We're going to do an acro one, but we're going to make it a special event, and I want to get the voting for it. We're going to do a full hour. We do like 100 acros, and everyone can vote and participate. So that's why I waited on acros. I wanted to just do something a little bit, a little bit easier to do. So let's start out with Ghanies. I'm going to put Ghanies in A tier. I would put them in S tier, but a lot of them die. It's not something that everyone can keep. So thinking about from my own personal taste to the hobby writ large, Ghanies are pretty finicky, right? I think that they're awesome, though. If you get them right, if you've got, like, there's every color ever now. There's a lot of new varieties in there. Don't forsake thy meat coral. You know what? Acanthophilia, D tier, overrated. No, I can't. I think they're S tier. I think they're one of the coolest corals out there. I mean, some of those crazy ones that BSA Ben gets in. Oh my God, like 9 colors and it's this big. Obviously, they have to be S tier. Acanthos are great. Okay, let's see. Acanthastria incarnata. I really like these. I think they're slept on. I think there's a lot of varieties out there that people haven't really explored. Like I've seen some like completely dark, almost black ones. There's the goldish ones. I think incarnatas are a solid A tier as well. They're very, very aggressive and they grow very slow. So those are the things that I think are problematic about it, and don't bring it up all the way to S. Thank you for resubscribing, Adam. Great to have you back. Bubble coral. Okay, that's my personal opinion. I think at A tier. They're kind of hard to keep sometimes. Some people have difficulty with them. They don't ship very well. So like every time you bring them in, you really can have significant losses with them. But they're really unique. If you've got a really healthy one, there's nothing like a bubble coral. Like beats out bounce mushrooms even, I think. Just aesthetically, it's so crazy to have this like massive bubbles. I like them a lot, but like I say, they just are a little bit more difficult if you haven't had one in captivity for a while. They don't acclimate as well, and they don't ship very well either because their septa are so large and they will just cut through their own tissue. I mean, it's pretty nasty for sure. Let's see. Sinarina. This one's a crazy one. I'd like to have this one. I think they're S tier. I think they're very underrated. I think there's some very, very cool ones out there. So, I mean, I like them a lot. They also stay smaller typically unless you've got them for a really long time. So having them in nano tanks allows you to have the same, like fill the same aesthetic niche as you would with like an acantho or an endophilia or something like that. So I think Sinarina are also S tier. Fox corals, I like them. I think they're underrated, but not a lot of people like them. They don't have a lot of color, so they're probably C tier, They're just kind of out there. I like them a lot. I'd probably personally put them in S tier, but I just kind of like the weird stuff, so they're not too popular overall. Let's see. Candy canes, probably B tier. Pretty solid. That's like the average piece to have, Everyone's got to have some kryptonite candy canes. They can look really nice in a ruffled colony. They grow relatively fast. There's tons of different phenotypes of them. I like them a lot. I have never talked to Than from Tidal Gardens, but I suppose I will likely meet him at Reef Stock in like a week. So I'd love to talk to him. Always watched Tidal Gardens growing up and getting into the hobby. So it'd be awesome. Explain the tier list again, please. Okay, so this is a trend from YouTube. So like a lot of people will go and like rank different like fast foods and stuff like that. Like McDonald's fries, they're top tier. So basically this is like more opinion based. And what this is S tier is like the best, like top. This is like the holy grail. And then it just goes down from there in quality. So this is all LPS coral today. And I'm just going and ranking them based on my own personal opinion. People tend to like it. We get in arguments. Sometimes they agree with me. Sometimes they don't. Blastomusa, Welsey, A tier. I love them. I think they grow slow, but I don't care. I think there's really, really cool ones out there. Like you got like the panty droppers. You've got all like, all the Iron Man types. There's some like the cool, like, kind of blue and like yellow ones that have been coming in like that as well. I think Blastos are severely underrated. The feeding response is awesome. You got bounce Blastos too. I think, Welsies are awesome. I have a pretty small collection of them, but every time I see a nice one, I will go and buy them for sure. I like them a lot. And once you get a big colony, they're extremely attractive. And there's not really anything like them. They were also, I have a personal sentimental value with them because they were one of my first corals I ever had that I kept successfully. I had a little like generic green and red Australian like mini colony of a Blastomusa Welsey, and I kept it for like 4 years and it grew like 3 heads because I didn't know what I was doing. So I've always liked Blastos. I think they're underrated. We'll do Blastomusa Merletti. I'm thinking C tier. They're not as cool. Kind of just like, they're like a Zoa almost. They're great money makers, right? Yeah, no, Acantho and Sinorina are top tier for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, no, Blastomusa Merletti, I think they're, they're cool, but it's nothing crazy special. You get like a little bit of a different growth pattern on them. It's kind of cool to see them be a smaller polyped LPS, if you will, for sure. Duncans. Okay, so Duncans, I think, are underrated, but overrated at the same time, if that makes sense. And I know it doesn't because it's paradoxical, but I've seen some Duncans that look like a torch. The extension on like the main polyps is insane. Like it looks really awesome. But just like the generic, like this picture right here, like the Aussie Duncan colonies that come in that are real short, I've never really liked them that much. They kind of look like just like a giant pagoda or like a tubenaria or something. I think for me personally, if we're looking at the vast majority of Duncans, I'm going to put them in D tier. But I can acknowledge that there are some very cool Duncans out there that I really like. All right, Elegance. I think they're S tier. When you get a healthy Elegance, you get some of the crazy ones like the lemon drops or like, Coral Exotic. He's got his Gomorrah Elegance that's dark purple and yellow with red tips. I mean, there's some really badass Elegance corals out there that are just like collector only, that just they get massive. They've got the same aesthetic as like a lot of the Euphilia, Febrophilia. They can be harder to keep, right? When you get them in first, they can definitely be difficult. They are prone to, getting situated in a tank. But yeah, I really think that Elegants are underrated. One of my favorite corals for sure. Yeah, the yellow ones, like, you see them once or twice a year at the wholesalers, and they're always a ridiculous amount of money, but they look insane. Like this one in this picture, like the lemon drop, I want to get one for sure. The Malaysian ones that come in are really nice. Then you've got keep sneezing, sorry. You got like the Aussie yellow tip teal ones. Those are a classic. You've got the Tyree pink tip. Like that looks really nice. Elegants, I think, are one of my favorite corals for sure. All right, Scalemia. People are going to be mad at me. I'm going to put them in A's tier though. I've just seen too many of them. That's my personal thing. I worked at a shop and we got in like 100, 200 Scolies all at the same time. We got masters in. We got really crazy ones that I just kind of got sick of them. They're really awesome. They're great. They're bright. They're easy to collect. A lot of people I know love them when one of them was S tier, but this is my personal opinion. I don't even really want them anymore because I feel like I've seen most of them. Now, if there was like a crazy 7-color one or something unique, I'd probably buy it. But I don't really have a desire to have like a bleeding apple or anything like that, just personally, just because they're common enough to where I've seen them quite a bit. Oh, there we go. Yeah, button Scolies. I think button Scolies are the same. I like them better for sure. Fireball is best out of the freezer. You're damn right, Omar. I'm not going to chug it. I've got school tomorrow. But you just reminded me I had some in the freezer, so there you go. I agree. Okay, where are we at? Button Scullies. I like them a lot. I think they're awesome. There's some really cool variations of them. I've seen like a pure yellow one with like purple splatter and stuff. Yeah, button Scullies are cool. Just can't really. I mean, I'm sure someone will probably try to cut them and propagate them, but it'd probably take forever to round out. But definitely cool. There was a customer at our old shop. He had a nano tank, and he filled the whole nano with button Scullies. He bought like every single one that was cool. Yeah, I'm a lightweight. I probably, a couple more drinks and I'll be gone. I've got the beer already, so we'll have to. So I was thinking about this. It might need to be like an NSFW type of thing where maybe I do it on my personal because I don't want to make Reef builders mad. But was thinking we do some type of interactive game where I have to take a shot if something. I don't know. I feel like that could end pretty badly, though. I don't know if I want to get completely wasted on a Coral live stream. But one of my friends gave me that idea last night. I'm not slurring. I am not slurring. Okay. Yeah, Salem Uncensored. There we go. Okay, Bauer Bankies, S tier. Bankies are some of the most badass corals ever. They grow slow, but God, they're beautiful. I think it's everything great about Micromusa, Lord Hyansis. There you go. I won't say Acan. I won't make you mad. And it's like turned up to 11. It's like you cross an Acantho with an Acan. I love them. I remember my first beer. Yeah, it's not my first, and it's not my last. I'll tell you that. Thanks, man. Thanks for reminding me I had Fireball in my freezer. I appreciate it. I needed a little pick-me-up today. All right, Micromusa, Lord Hyansis, otherwise known. There you go. Now I am slurring. Jesus. Otherwise known as Acants. I think A tier. I think the absolute coolest ones are like better than any coral ever. Like I've got one of the BSA paint splatters. I've got some of the Mardi Gras. Jesus, man. They are just beautiful corals. But I think that there's a lot of them that are just like, whatever. Everyone has them, so they're nice, but they're not like completely show-stopping for me, I suppose. Acanthastria pachycepta, like the false lobo. I think C tier. There can be some cool ones. It's nice that you can frag them and propagate them, unlike a lot of the other lobos, which are harder to do. You get some kind of cool ones. Like I saw some really interesting ones that came in like November that were like pure white and not like bleached. Like they had like this really light gray kind of almost white looking fluorescence to them. They were completely healthy. And then it was almost like a teal color, but more white. Like I said, they can come in some really, really unique colors at times. But yeah, they are extremely aggressive. They eat absolutely like everything. Like, I mean, they're so mean. That's the only thing with them too, is you got to keep them away from each other. But I think that they could be a pretty cool and unique addition to a tank for sure. All right, hammers, branching in particular, S tier. I love hammers. Nothing better than hammers. So many colors, so many regions. Malaysian, Indo, Aussie, Fiji, Tonga. You got them all. They're all a little bit different. I think they're all probably different subspecies. I think there's a lot of different subspecies that have not been taxonomized yet. So, for instance, there's I call them fat. Well, everyone calls them fatheads, right? But there's some that have came in from Australia. They're kind of deeper water collected. I had a friend at Ultra Corals Australia that was telling me like where they were collected at, and they come in. They look just like a wall hammer, right? But you'll get colonies of them sometimes, and they form colonies. They'll just form these large basketball-sized heads, and they will branch, but it takes them forever. So it's almost like it has the morphological characteristics of a wall hammer, but it still branches, which is very interesting. Then you've got the Indonesian micro hammers that have like, pencil-sized diameter like stems. And I think that, there's very, very distinct morphological characteristics between a lot of these hammers in different regions. And the question is have they branched off enough morphologically to be considered a different subspecies with genetics? Maybe. It's probably something I'll eventually do. If I get some free time, I'll just kind of take a sample of all the different types of hammers I have and send them off and see if they are different or not. But yeah, I think they're great. I love branching hammers. Why do wall hammers suck at life? I think flow is very important for wall hammers. So I've had a lot of luck with wall hammers, right? But it's always been flow. So just for whatever reason, the membrane I think really is prone to tearing on the stem, or just gets irritated a lot easier. So I mean, the key is having flow over top of them, if that makes sense, but not having direct flow towards them. And as long as you do that and you've got stability in the rest of the parameters, wall hammers are, just as easy to keep as other stuff. But flow is a big one, and a lot of people don't get that right with them, I think. But every time I've got it right, I've never had an issue with them. So yeah, we'll do wall hammers next. I think B tier, right? So people have issues with them. You can frag them, but it's harder to do. You got to do like the rubber band method, or just really epoxy stuff up with like iodine mixed in with the epoxy afterwards. Then it still takes a very long time to heal, and you'll never get the flesh to come over the glue. And, so they're cool, but it's harder to propagate them, and people have difficulty with them. There are some very cool variations of them that you don't see in the other types of hammers. So like some just completely screaming yellow ones that aren't just your typical gold. You'll get like pure orange ones. You'll get bright neon pinks, some kind of rainbow colored ones. So yeah, I think wall hammers are great, but they're probably not for everyone. They can be difficult. All right, octo spawns. I think A tier. I like octos a lot. They just don't come in a lot of variations. There's like your 10 types, and that's about it. There hasn't really been any new ones that have came in a very long time. There's starting to be some fathead octos that come in. So it's the same thing as like how there's these fathead hammers I described. There's octos like that too, where it's like the walling ones, but they still branch. And there's a little bit more diversity in those. They have like bright yellow ortal disc and things like that. So I say, but just not a lot of diversity. Endophilia, S tier for sure. I love endophilia. I think they're my favorite of like the kind of solitary meat corals. There's some really unique ones. I had one that was neon purple. It was like a lilac, and it was bright. I mean, there's some very, very interesting ones out there. It's kind of the best of both worlds of the Sinarina and the acanthos. I think that they're very nice, and there's some very attractive ones. They also don't come in as often, so it's kind of nice to what? When the hell were they reclassified? Really? I didn't know that they were reclassified. That's crazy. I completely missed that. Well, Remy, we got to write an article about it. Didn't know about that. Wow, we slept on that one. That makes sense, though. Morphologically, they're so similar. Like the septa on the skeleton, it's like exactly the same. They look really similar. Like I said, that says nothing about genetics, but at least looking at them, the skeleton and everything, yeah, they look really similar. So that does make... Oh, Sinarina macasarensis? Oh, man. Damn it. I can't call them endophilia anymore. That was such a cool name, too. Okay, torches. Y'all are going to hate me, but B tier. I used to love torches. I'm an admin on Euphilia Freaks. It's like the largest Euphilia group. I've been obsessed with torches for years. I've had them all. But I'm just sick of them. Like there was the torch craze. Everyone had torches. And then when Indonesia was shut down, everyone wanted torches. And now the market's flooded with torches. And there's just not that specialty to them anymore, It used to be like, oh, holy shit, he's got a CC24K. Now you go on Reef to Reef, and there's enough people growing up, you can always get one, even the lineage ones. So I like them, but I'm sick of them. I'm tired of torches. I was into torches way too heavy for like 3.5 years. So I don't even have a torch anymore. Don't own a single torch. I've got other, Cycloceras. I was going to do one with maybe just the plate corals. So like Cycloceras and the Fungias and Heliofungias. Like I said, this is by no means an exhaustive list. Cycloceras are badass, though. I like all the different plates. I like the Diacerius, too, for sure. But, so that's the tier list for the week. We're going to try to do an acro one where all of you can actually vote. So instead of having my shitty take, then we're going to go and we're going to let you guys vote on what strains of acros you want to see. So for the next 2 minutes, drop what acros you want to see in the chat, and I'll make sure to add them. I'm going to have home wreckers. I'm going to have, a Walt Disney. I'll have like an Oregon and a Cali Tort. I'm going to have Rainbow Splice. I'm going to have all the big ones, but there's probably some smaller, like say, I'm not a stick guy. So there's probably some I might not be thinking of. And if you want to see your favorite one on there, I will include it. I'm going to try to have 100. Yeah, Disney. Yeah, Strawberry Shortcake. Yes. Like I say, I'm trying to think of what other ones I'll probably put on there. Like Angry Birds. Angry Birds are badass. A lot of the TSA ones are very, very cool. So we have about 20 minutes left. I've gave my rant about the probiotic concoction. I did my tier list for LPS corals. So now it's time for me to talk to you. If you send stars on Facebook, I will chug this entire thing. We need 5 stars being sent. All of those go as payment to Reef Builders, and maybe I can finagle some of the money for me. So if 5 people send stars, I will chug the fireball right now. Let's see if we get it. Remy, let me know if we hit that goal, because I can't see the Facebook stuff. But if we hit it after this, then I'll do it the next. I'll open the live stream and chug the fireball. Yeah, payment to Remy, yeah. But yeah, it's time to talk. So what do we want to talk about? Anyone have any questions about stuff? This is now your time for free consultation where you don't have to pay me $100 an hour. So. Oh, no. You guys want me to get drunk on a school night? You guys are bad influences. I've got a test early next week. I need to be studying. If we get 5 stars, though, oh, that can go. Oh, my God, we hit it. Okay. Well, I will. Hopefully I don't throw up. I hate Fireball. I really don't like Fireball. This is my friend's Fireball. Okay. If we actually hit it, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to. Okay, there we go. I'll answer that. Okay, so summary on concoction is number 1. The idea behind all of it, I think, makes a lot of sense, right? There's, copious amounts of literature out there that coral are bacteriivores. The whole trophic level thing also makes sense. It makes sense to have, like having the fact that it's live and can bioremediate excess nutrients in your tank. It's a clean food or nutritional source is also something that I think is good. Now, what I think is bad or potentially dangerous is how it's being cultured. So it's not aseptic at all, right? So there could be any type of, and this is a very nutrient-rich broth that you're basically making. So that means that any type of contaminant can theoretically grow in that, whether it be, opportunistic or coral pathogens or even human pathogens. And, this is not just out of my ass. An example I gave of this is I showed an aquabiomics report earlier from Telegram, and he had a bottle of EcoBalance that he had open for like 2 years or so. And he sent it in, and there was a human pathogen that had actually grown in the excess. Oh no, I got paid $10. Oh my God. Okay, I guess I'll drink it. I'll finish this though. But there was a human pathogen that had actually grown in the excess nutrients that were put in the bottle of EcoBalance, so it had a longer shelf life. So, I mean, that's proof enough alone. So if you have like a drop of tank water from a tank that doesn't have a good microbiome or has, opportunistic pathogens in there, and you get it in here, I mean, it needs to be treated like phytoplankton, right? And I think that also a lot of these commercial bacterial products are kind of, they're not snake oil per se, but they're not exactly what we should be adding, right? So a lot of them are just probiotics that are taken from the human health industry, like lactobacillus, bacillus subtilis, different E. coli strains. They're not necessarily things that are completely beneficial to our reef tanks, and prolonged and higher concentration addition of them to the tank could modulate the microbiome by outcompeting some good guys or things that are at least benign, like Pelagibacter. So I think that adding things where we don't know what the bacteria is, culturing them in not sterile conditions, which can lead to contamination, are both potentially bad things. Yes, so even if he says use clean water and not tank water, think about all it takes is like a single drop. It takes a single bacterial cell. So if you go and you take a syringe to add it and put it in your tank, and then you go and you don't clean that syringe, and then you go and retake a sample from that, right? And then even if you mix water, if you used a pump that's ever been in contact with water from another tank, if you're not sterilizing that water through like autoclaving it. It can be transferred that way too. So you really need to have a sterile container that is airlocked. You need to have sterile water. You need to have, know what bacteria you're adding to culture it. So it needs to be done in a much more controlled way. I think the idea is good. I've got no beef with the guys. They're trying to push the envelope, and that's great. That's what we need in the hobby. But I think that trying to culture massive amounts of bacteria, we don't know the species, in a non-sterile way could be potentially dangerous for human health. So yeah, so that's the thing is, having a low pH residually could help a lot of stuff, but there's plenty of things that have adapted to low pH environments that we can have, on our hands and things like that. Even so, if you're not sterile, there's always a chance. And that's the thing. If you're not remaining sterile, there is always a chance. I have seen, even remaining sterile, using autoclave water sources, exposing things to UV, having a flame, having gloves, wiping, ethanol on my gloves, you'll still get contamination sometimes. And you can even get eukaryotic contamination through things like different fungi or yeast and things like that too. So, okay, set up a 6.6 foot peninsula. Don't want any pumps on the open side. What wave makers and LED lights do you recommend? Mixed reef. I recommend a T5 hybrid, if you don't want to get halides or something like that. If you're going to go LED only, I think the Orphic icons are a great option. There's also like the Amazonas. That's probably overkill though, but the Orphic stuff is really good. They have this 600 nanometer peak from the amber LEDs, which sets them apart from everything else in the market. So I think that those are a really good option. In terms of flow, I like gyres on smaller tanks, right? But there's plenty of different options. You can go crazy, you could put like an Abyss on there. There's a lot of options for flow. It's really what you're looking for. Some people like the aesthetics of the Ecotech stuff, for sure. But, I use gyres mostly. The people have spoken. It looks like we got $20. So I will have to talk to Raj, and hopefully I will get all of that money because I really dislike Fireball. And it looks like I'm going to get intoxicated on a school night because of money. So, all right, people, I'm going to do it. Jesus, I did not swallow that. Sorry. Oh, my God. I hate Fireball. Usually I could shotgun whatever, but I'm about halfway there. I'll chase it with my beer. Oh my God. Yep. I need a breather. Jesus Christ. I'm going to go puke and rally. Okay. Before you get too blasted, well, that already happened. Yeah, I'm not built for Fireball. If it was anything else, yes, I'll drink it down. But I hate Fireball so much. Okay, have you researched Endozoicomonas much? Any potential hobby, from your opinion, benefits aside from BMSP degradation? Culturing it, I think, will be hard. I think also there's been a lot of evidence to where the microbiome has been tracked over time, to where they take wild corals and put them in captivity, and concentrations of Endozoicomonas will naturally, I'm not going to throw up, will naturally decrease over time. And the theory I've seen behind that is the I'm getting called feminine for not being a professional alcoholic. Jesus Christ. That's so funny. Anyways, so the idea is that they're involved in maybe some sort of nutrient fixation process. So if there's excess nutrients in the aquarium through feeding and things like that, the coral no longer needs them as a symbiont and then disassociates them, or they disassociate themselves, whatever mechanism it happens through, from the holobionts. So that's the thing, is you would have to, add it at a regular interval if you could get it to culture. Even then, I think it would maybe be, it would probably take some time to get it right. And to isolate it, to isolate a strain that is not pathogenic, because there was a new paper that came out and there are some strains that are now identified as opportunistic. So isolating it from an environmental sample, getting a pure culture, that's like probably a couple weeks to a month, winning the lottery and getting it to grow. then testing if it's pathogenic, and then testing if it could be retained in the aquarium. So there's definitely some barriers to entry there, but I think that it could prove to be a useful strain for sure. Yeah. DMSP degradation is one that's good for sure as well. Any input on the Vertex biopellets? I found their recommended dose is extremely excessive. Yeah, so by any type of biopellets, undershoot it, right? Like you don't want to overdo them for sure. So that's with everything. Yeah, just I would, unless you've got a crazy bio load, like Andrew Sandler style huge tank, right? You know, I don't even think he uses biopellets. I think he has a sulfur reactor, something like that. I'm not sure he does for nutrient export entirely. I think he was in the chat earlier. He'd probably be able to tell you, but yeah, just don't overdo it. Like with anything with nutrient reduction, chemical media, carbon dosing, biopellets, got to chill on it. So ease into it. Yep, sulfur reactor, I think. All right, so we got 10 minutes left. I chugged the Fireball. I've got one more Fireball in the fridge. I'll actually chug it if we get $50 of donations. That's my proposition. If we get $50, I will drink the other Fireball in the fridge. And I can also slam this beer. And then I could go for another hour, and then you can deal with drunk me. I don't know. Well, this is something I'm doing voluntarily. I have no idea where donations go. This is something I did on the fly. I think that Reef Builders gets the money. I don't think that I'm getting the money at all. So I just threw it out there because I thought it'd be funny, and then people actually sent us money. So yeah. I don't really want to chug another Fireball. I don't need to do that tonight. I've got a test Monday. But yeah, we've got about 9 minutes. Anyone want to talk about anything? Any questions? I might expand the tier list and stuff next time, just so we don't have as much dead period. I like talking about whatever, but you know, I also want to provide you guys content and not just have it be like, oh, $5 more. Oh no. Yeah, Cassidy, that was funny. I can't remember what happened with that. I think I got sent money, didn't I? Yeah, the shop I used to. Holy shit. All right. Okay. So I actually do not have another Fireball. I thought I did, but I don't. Here's what I do have. Both are equally bad. One is very funny and probably degrading. The other one, I will get belligerently intoxicated. Okay. This is Lemon Drop Moonshine, my friend, and he's a fellow reefer, George Newman made. I don't even know what percent it is, but like 3 sips and I'm usually gone. I don't have to even tell you what this is. I did not buy this. Someone bought this for me. It has been in my fridge for 3 years and I have never taken it. So, those are the options. Yeah, they're a type of chalice. Yeah, they're nice. Yeah, it's a sperm shot. Yes. Yes, there's like the stuff like Chaeto Grow and things like that, you know. So just if you keep up with your traces already, though, just account for like a higher consumption of things like iron, iodine, stuff like that, and you should be on top of it. But if you don't do traces, then yeah, moonshine and a sex toy, pretty much. If you don't do traces, then yeah, having something such as Chaeto Grow, that's an easy commercial solution for it. Yeah, what did Remy do with his aquabiomic uranema results? What did happen? Chase the shine with the sperm shot. That's too far. I can't do that. You guys really want me to get trashed, huh? Okay. So I will let you guys vote because I have to do one of them. We got sent $50. That's a great donation. That's awesome. A, literal moonshine. B, a sperm shot that's got a little face on it. Those are the options. There you go. Yeah, she can choose. I didn't have another fireball. I started panhandling for money is what happened. And then people actually sent the money. And now I'm drinking because I got paid money. So that is how we ended up with me getting drunk on the stream. I hope this is legal. I am 21. I'm 22, actually. I'm going to turn 23 pretty soon. I don't want to show my ID. I can't stand Fireball. I had too many bad experiences that throwing up of a Fireball is terrible. Yeah, I think Raj just came out of surgery, I think. I've not talked to him this week, but I saw he posted him recovering. Okay. I'll take like 2 big swigs of it. How about that? Because yeah, usually 3 does me. So I'll do 2 gulps. I've already had the Fireball and I've been sipping on a beer. So I would say that ought to push me past the threshold. That was actually 3. It tastes good though. Tastes good. I'm gonna get a water real quick. I need to hydrate. I gotta go to the gym in the morning. All right. I did not. Yeah. So I held it down. Okay. Had a question about phosphate testing. I've recently read that phosphate particles are very sticky, and if their test tube isn't cleaned out thoroughly, the next test results will be unreliable. I've not heard about that, but yeah, phosphate can adhere to glass, I believe. Orthophosphates might be able to. So yeah, that makes sense. I would just clean it out with some ethanol or something like that, or like a cleaning product. Not a cleaning product, right? But like a cleaning agent in this instance that is reef safe. So ethanol, hydrogen peroxide, things like that are a safe bet. What's your biggest secret to reefing? Stability in deep pockets. That's about all you can have. Stability is really king, man. I mean, that's it. Like, so many. I know it's like such old man advice. Like, that's like some stuff that like Sanjay and Michael Paletta like would be saying. Like, just don't overthink it. Stability, but like seriously, like that's it. Ooh, will UV spectrometer be able to read chloroquine levels or too much interference? So I've used spectrophotometers quite a bit, but I've not used them. Like, typically I'm using them for like organic stuff, not inorganic stuff, right? So like we've used them for like protein concentration assays. So I don't think I know enough about inorganic chemistry to be able to tell you that. But I do know that, they're very versatile tools. So if you've got a good one and you keep it calibrated and you've got some standards you can use as comparison, you're probably going to be able to eliminate a lot of your testing. And you could potentially use it to test for inorganic or organic pollutants as well. So yeah, a spectrophotometer, if you've got one, a spectrometer, whatever. Yeah, very versatile tool for sure. But yeah, I don't know enough about inorganic chemistry to answer it about chloroquine levels, but keep it calibrated. That is very important for sure. That's something we do at the university. Like, always got to calibrate it, always blank it, always have, standards to make sure that the reading's correct. Triple read it, take the average of those readings. That's kind of standard practice. But yeah, I'm more familiar with the biological side when using them, but they definitely have a side in terms of inorganic stuff for sure. That's used in a lot of the chem students. Yeah, use them. I have a buddy that actually does some stuff with his research with them. I can talk to him about it and see if he has a thought. I'm currently fighting 5.0 PO4 in a fish-only 150-gallon client tank. Any suggestions? Probably chloroquine phosphate. If it's a fish-only tank, go to town, No coral, you can drop it fast if you want to. You could potentially get cyano from a quick swing. That'd be like about it, or dinos if you bought them out. But yeah, man, if it's a fish-only tank, chloroquine phosphate. There you go. Okay, Remy, it's up to you if you want to go for longer. I did indeed promise the people we would, but that is up to you. I finished my homework for the day, and I've been a good boy, so I will not drink anymore. I will promise that, but yeah. Anything slower growing than a purple monster? You mean purple monster acro? Okay, we'll do 5 more minutes. Okay, 5 more minutes. Any last questions? Houston, do you mean acro or discosoma? Or another purple monster I'm not aware of? That's the thing, is too much fun. Yeah, this was fun tonight, but God, I cannot make this a habit. I am not going to be drinking every single stream. I'll probably drink at Reef Stock quite a bit, though. Yeah, so like I say, I've not had a purple monster, but everyone that grows acro says they are pretty slow. Some of the speciosus, I think, can be slow as well, though. But, I'm trying to think of other stuff that could be slower. Snake polyps. Stuff. There's like some weird stuff like that just really, really grows slow, and you never really get growth out of them. That or, I could be facetious and tell you Dendronepthia, like NPS corals, stuff that people don't have success with. But, yeah. Talk about some of the stuff you're selling at Reef Stock. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, so I don't know why I have this like this. I've been collecting zoas for as long as I can remember. And me and a very close friend who both of us have a very good eye for zoas. And, not chloroquine phosphate, lanthanum chloride. Listen, Reef Keeper on YouTube. I don't know if you saw earlier, but I have drank a lot on this stream. Do not dose chloroquine phosphate to lower your phosphates. Lanthanum chloride is what I meant to say. Thank you for calling me out. That was a tipsy mistake. Anyways, so I'm going to be selling a lot of zoas. I've got a lot of new ones that I have never seen before that I've held for like last 2 years and aquacultured them and grown them out. And I'm going to be releasing a lineup with my buddy. We've got a collaborative effort. So, there's like the SBB lineup of zoas. Then like NYRA had the whole beast lineup with the God Beast, the Ingot Beast, the Inferno Beast. We are releasing a new lineup that is going to be space themed, and they're all zoas. It's not your run of the mall shit. Like, it's not middle of the mall. It's not stuff that's out there. This is stuff that is like, we as zoa collectors have cherry picked it from every wholesaler, have grown it out, and we've kept it. So I'm going to be releasing some of those for the first time at Reef Stock Denver. It's been something we've been planning for about 2 years. They're pricey, but I mean, they're worth it. These are some of the coolest zoas I've seen, and they're not out there, and they're going to be lineage because they're part of my collection. So if you're interested in high-end zoas, I'm going to have a lot of them. And then I'll have some cheaper stuff, right? I've got all the cheaper zoas. I'll have some Magyotas and Rainbow Infusion, stuff for everyone. I'm going to have a lot of hammers and Octospawn. Everything I have is 100% aquacultured, been quarantined for months, then grown out in my system. I don't bring anything that's fresh out of quarantine to the shows, only stuff that I have grown out in my systems for a prolonged period of time. I'm also probably going to have a lot of pods and phyto as well, so I'll have live foods available too. And then I will also have consultation packages. So I usually charge $100 an hour for consultation. I'll have a special QR code, so if you buy it at the show, you can consult me for an hour for $50, and that's about anything. And I can just call me on the phone. I'll talk to you about it all. But that's what I'm going to be having at Reef Stock. I'm going to be doing a coral disease workshop where I run everyone through how to use microscopes and what basic cell shape looks like with bacteria, what the different bacteria are. If you see this one, could it be a bad guy? Could it be a good guy? And then I will also have a speech at Reef talk about coral pathogens. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to see you all there. If you're going to be there, make sure to stop by my booth. So, yeah. Let's see. Any other questions? If not, we will probably log off. We've had an eventful night. I did not know it would lead to me consuming this much alcohol, but I appreciate the donations. I think we got quite a bit of money that was sent to us, so that's really awesome. I appreciate the support. I'm a man of my word. I'm not going to not drink if I promise I'm going to drink. So we're going to try to do the call you about cold fireball. We're going to try to do the acro tier list next week, I think, and then we'll also have the normal Reef therapy episode, or Reef recap episode. That is the idea. Shout out Gorilla Glue again. Yeah, do you guys like BioCube Biologist or unpaid partner of Gorilla Glue Super Glue Gel? I never buy the BRS glue. I've just always forgot to order it when I frag stuff, and I go to Dollar General and buy Gorilla Glue Super Glue Gel. So that was the idea behind that. So yeah, you guys can choose my little subheader name next time as well. I want to keep this fun and educational. So see you next week at 7:45. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good weekend, Reef Builders.